Senator Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me begin with a tragic incident that happened on January 29th of this year. 67 people were lost when a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter collided with a PSA airline flight 5342. Obviously, it was a tragic moment. In the intervening weeks and months, as investigations are ongoing, family members have expressed to me significant concerns by the lack of transparency and direct communication with the Army, specifically Army senior leaders. And Secretary Driscoll, does the Army commit to establish a direct communication with these families? I think it's fair and necessary.
Senator, the incident on that day is a tragedy. Our hearts go out to the victims and their families. The Army is doing everything we can to learn from the incident to ensure that it never occurs again. There is obviously an investigation and lawsuits ongoing, and the best advice we've received from counsel to date is to let those play out. And so that's our current position, Senator.
No, I understand that, but I think just reaching out in a very clearly non-substantive way, but in a compassionate way, that the Army understands their grief and we're doing all we can without obviously specifying, would be appropriate. You know, I do understand that the National Transportation Safety Board and the Army is conducting investigations, but General George, could you briefly describe the changes that you've already made to improve the safety in that zone?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think, again, we've been cooperating fully with the National Transportation Safety Board and had our own folks in here. The biggest thing is the flight routes have completely changed, and that was a decision that was made that the route that was, I believe it's Route 4 that's past there, that is closed off. Immediately, we made adjustments, and I will, with people that are coming in right now, there's very, very few flights that come in and out of the Pentagon. I would tell you that, you know, we do, and you're aware of the mission. We still have a mission to do, so, you know, our formations need to continue to make sure that they're doing that. Right. But also that, you know, the changes that we've done with making sure that ADSB and that there's constant communication. So again, we're working very closely with the FAA, both locally and then nationally, to make sure that that we learn from this. And learning means changing, and that's what we're doing.
No, I appreciate that, but again, I think on a human level, some contact with the families would be more than appropriate. Mrs. Secretary, the New York Times recently reported that the Department of Homeland Security asked for over 20,000 National Guard forces to conduct interior immigration enforcement. Have you been asked to prepare for this requirement?
We have.
Immigration enforcement in the interior of the United States is unprecedented for the National Guard. And the scale of assistance that they're asking for is equally unprecedented. Diverting 20,000 guardsmen to this role, first of all, they're not trained for it. It'll necessarily pull those persons away from their jobs, their families. But more importantly, I think it's going to divert them from their more traditional role, disaster relief, supporting local emergencies. And we know that there's likely to be a very strenuous hurricane season, which I'm told begins on June 1st. From which states would the Army be pulling these troops?
I'll jump in. I don't, we are working through this right now, and obviously we'll get asked to provide soldiers. You know, we're ready to do that. We are, I will tell you, sir, prepared to respond to emergencies. That we've, you know, done that routinely. I mentioned that in my opening statement on what we're able to do across all the compos, and then with whatever missions that we're aligned to do, those, you know, clerical or whatever, they would be aligned to whatever the soldiers are trained to do.
Is this a mission that, in your experience, that National Guards would have been trained for, going and searching for illegal immigrants in major cities and across the country?
Again, Senator, I think that, the missions would be aligned with what our soldiers are trained to do within the authorities that we would have under Title 10.
Do we have a cost estimate yet of how much it would cost to deploy 20,000 National Guards?
Senator, I don't believe we do, but we'll follow up with your office the moment we know what states and an estimated cost.
Just finally, we recognize that both legally and traditionally, soldiers are not police officers or ICE agents. Much of what they do lies outside of this law enforcement environment. Are you concerned about the scene of U.S. Army, and people won't make distinction between National Guard and U.S. Army, driving in military vehicles and pulling people out of houses and putting them in the backs of trucks and driving them away? I don't think that's the image the Army has strove for 250 years to create.
Senator, I don't, it's hard to answer that hypothetical because we have not heard of those details in the planning. And so it's hard to answer today.
So if you were directed to begin to seize people, put them in trucks and drive them away, you would object because that is inconsistent with the Army of the United States?
Again, Senator, it's hard to answer that hypothetical. We have no one has asked that question.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the extra time.